The question is that this bill be now read a first time. As many as are of that opinion will say content. The contrary not content. The contents have it.
My Lords, with permission, I will repeat as a statement the answer given to an urgent question in the other place by my honourable friend, the Minister for Public Health, on pre-exposure prophylaxis. HIV can be a devastating illness. We know that PrEP can make a difference to both those at risk of contracting HIV and those who are already HIV positive. However, it is crucial that we have a full understanding of all the issues surrounding PrEP. As with any new intervention, PrEP must be properly assessed in relation to clinical and cost effectiveness. This is why we have today asked NICE to conduct an evidence review of Truvada for pre-exposure prophylaxis of HIV in high-risk groups. This evidence review signifies the next step forward and will inform any subsequent decisions about commissioning. It will look at the evidence for effectiveness, safety, patient factors and resource implications. The NICE evidence summary will run alongside a pilot scheme in which we are investing up to £2 million. Public Health England is currently identifying the most effective places for the pilot to take place. It is also important to remember that the drug used for PrEP, Truvada, is not yet licensed for this use in the UK. That is why, as well as the pilot scheme, the Government wants to see an evidence review which will help inform future commissioning decisions about PrEP. PrEP is only one of a range of activities to tackle HIV. Our £2.4 million national HIV prevention and sexual health promotion programme also gives those at highest risk the best advice to make safer choices about sex. The UK has world-class treatment services. The UK is already ahead in reaching 2 of the UN AIDS goals of 90% diagnosed infection, 90% diagnosed on treatment, and 90% viral suppression by 2020. In 2014, 17% of those living with HIV had undiagnosed infection, but 91% of those diagnosed were on treatment, of whom 95% were virally suppressed. We're determined to continue to make real progress to meet these goals and are considering carefully the role that PrEP can play in helping us get there.
Well, I'm grateful to the Noble Lord, but, my Lords, this decision by NHS England to actually not commission and fund PrEP is a matter of great regret. My Lords, in the UK, there are more people living with HIV than ever before. We know, my Lords, without any need for an evidence review, it is absolutely clear, without any certainty whatsoever, that PrEP is the potential to be a game changer. It's proven to be effective in stopping HIV transmission in almost every single case. There is no need whatsoever, my Lords, for an evidence review. It is simply a delaying factor because of this absolutely disgraceful decision not to fund this drug. And, my Lords, the Noble Lord has mentioned our record in relation to other countries. It's an absolute matter of shame that this drug is being used extensively in other countries and is being denied to NHS patients without any justification whatsoever. My Lords, on a number of occasions, I've asked the Noble Lord, because he, at some point, will preonate the issue of the cost of new drugs. He will never answer me this question, because I suspect the answer is too embarrassing. He knows that he is in the middle of a 5-year agreement with the branded drug industry, by which, if the cost of drugs goes over the base level plus a small allowance for inflation, the department receives a refund every 3 months. So, my Lords, that agreement should enable new drugs to be funded. But, my Lords, of course, the point is that money is not being used to invest in those new drugs. And so, my Lords, if he says the reason this can't be done is because of cost, that, my Lords, is simply not true. My Lords, I very much hope that the Government will reconsider this decision. It is utterly indefensible.
My Lords, in response, I'm not going to proffer that argument today that it's too expensive, because that isn't the issue today. The issue today is that NHS England feel they don't have the power to commission this particular drug. Now that whether or not they have that power, it may well be judicially reviewed, and so I cannot comment on whether or not the outcome of that judicial review. I would just say this though, that there is evidence. The Proud study produced strong evidence of the effectiveness of Truvada as a preventative drug. The work that NICE are going to do now, and the pilot scheme that NHS England are funding with the PHE, which is going to cost £2 million to look at the effectiveness of this drug, will be done so that when it is resolved as to whether or not NHS England do have the power or not to commission this particular drug, there will be the evidence on which to make that decision.
Simply delaying until Truvada comes out of patent and becomes cheaper. And could he also say whether NHS England has taken into account the protection from HIV infection to the whole community that would result from a reduction in infection of high-risk groups? And could he also explain why the government sees infection prevention as a local authority responsibility in this particular case, when other forms of prevention, such as vaccination, are the responsibility of the NHS nationally? This is not consistent, my lords.
Well, as I said in response to the earlier question, this is really not about the efficacy of this particular drug. There is evidence that it is very efficient, and that will be confirmed or otherwise by the extra work that's being done by PHE. It is purely a question that the independent legal advice given to NHS England is that they do not have the power to commission this particular drug.
The independent advice seems extremely curious, and I think the Minister should go into more detail on that. But because surely we're past the stage of needing a pilot on this. The evidence on PrEP is overwhelming internationally. And is not the underlying fear here that policy on HIV has gone off the boil, in spite of the fact that prevention measures like this are good in both human and in financial terms?
All I can say in response is that NHS England have had independent legal advice. They do not have the power to commission this particular drug for this particular purpose. And of course, for this particular purpose, the drug itself is not yet licensed. So it is not to do with any decision on efficacy grounds for this particular drug. It is purely a question that they have received independent legal advice.
Could the Minister confirm that legal advice, as I understood it on reading through, points out that it is weak evidence that NHS England does not have the power to commission PrEP? It says that NHS England does not have the power to fund PrEP, but it does point out that under Section 7A, the Secretary of State has the power to delegate the commissioning of PrEP, and therefore could the Minister explain why the Secretary of State, in the face of the evidence that's come through from the Proud study and internationally, has not used Section 7A to support NHS England? Or is this a dispute going on between NHS England and Public Health England, and is this a fallout from the Health and Social Care Act?
I don't think it's a fallout from the Health and Social Care Act. I think it is purely that NHS England NHS Specialist Commissioning Committee within NHS England have received clear independent legal advice, as I understand it, saying they do not have the power to commission this product. Now, that position may well be challenged legally, in which case it will be resolved one way or the other.
I'm sure the Noble Lord, the Minister, will be aware that this is an extraordinarily puzzling thing to be confronted with for those of us who are not experts in this field but do know a little bit about it. It just sounds plain daft, frankly. But would the Noble Lord confirm that there is very little prospect of vaccination or immunisation against HIV being developed any time in the foreseeable future, and that therefore PrEP is a really vital tool in preventing the spread of this infection for the next generation and probably subsequent generations? And can he say, if this legal tangle has to be untangled, how long he anticipates that will take?
know how long it's going to take. I don't know how long a judicial review will take. I guess it will be months rather than years. I simply can't answer that question because I don't know the answer to it. But again, this is a legal issue. It's not an efficacy issue. This is not the government saying we don't want to fund this particular prophylactic. It is a question of NHS England saying they simply have been advised they do not have the powers to do so.
My Lord, can I ask a simple social question, which is that if there are going to be trials, how will the decision be made as to who gets into a trial and who gets left out? Because that could be a matter of life and death for some HIV sufferers.
My Lord, NHS England and PHE are consulting on who should be, or how this trial should be constructed. Clearly, it will be focused around high-risk individuals. But in terms of choosing who goes on to the trial, that will be up to PHE and NHS England.
A lot of misunderstanding over the use of PrEP and an increase in the prevalence of other sexually transmitted infections. Will the Noble Lord, the Minister, meet with me and other Noble Lords who may be interested to discuss these issues? I declare an interest as a participant in the PROUD project.
I'll be very happy to meet with the Noble Lord. It may be better for him to meet with my honourable friend in the other place, who is responsible for public health. But either one of us will be very happy to meet with him.
In light of the fact that the UK now has the worst HIV epidemic of any large Western European country, having overtaken Spain, France and Portugal, and that 7 men who have sex with men every day are diagnosed with HIV, in light of this legal argument, and in light of what the Noble Baroness said, the Secretary of State, under the legal advice that was given to NHS England, under Section 7A, has the power to delegate who gives these PrEP pills. Could the Minister please ask the Secretary of State to do that until the legal issue is solved, so lives are saved, rather than an argument about who funds and who's got legal ability to do this?
Well, I'm not briefed on Section 7A. I'm not sure what the powers of the Secretary of State are, but I will, after this debate, I will research that and find out what powers he does have.